If you've ever been curious about homeschooling with a charter school, let me answer some frequently asked questions that I receive so you can make a good decision for your family. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Trisha at Juicebox Homeschool, and I just want to start by saying I have a cough drop in my mouth and I'm not feeling the best today, but this is the time that I had to sit down. And on Instagram, I get asked frequently about my experience homeschooling with a charter school. And I wanted to take some time to answer those questions as thoroughly as possible to help you make a good decision for your own family. People get very opinionated about how to homeschool and what's the right way. But here I want you to know that you are the boss. You call the shots for your own family and you know your family the best. So I would never come and tell you how you should do anything for your family. And I'm just here to share my own experience in hopes that it would help you find what's right for you or what's completely not right for you. So homeschooling with a public charter school is a way to stay connected with the public school system and to receive some support, which can be seen as positive or negative. I've experienced both positive and negative. I also started homeschooling with a private school, which gave us a lot more freedom. So I've seen the difference between having a lot of freedom and less support and not as much freedom, but a lot of support. One of my friends was hired by a public charter school as a teacher, and we had a God-appointed meeting at a random clothing store, got to catch up, and she told me all about the school that she was working with and how she's using that charter school to homeschool her kids. And I had already been praying about leaving the private school we were homeschooling with, not sure if I would just file my own PSA and homeschool privately, but I didn't even know about a homeschool charter school until my friend was telling me all about it. It just felt very God appointed and the timing was so perfect. So I thought we'd give it a try for a year and see how it went. So our experience homeschooling with a charter school has been overall good. There's mixed pros and cons for sure, but overall it has been helpful to our family, especially in these high school years. I appreciate the extra guidance and having a counselor to talk to and make sure we're doing everything in line with our state. Although I would be able to do that on my own without the support, but I do appreciate the extra eyes on everything I'm doing, and I see it as a positive thing for myself. All right, let me answer some of the questions I received about charter schools. Okay, how do you learn all that the school has to offer, like field trips, online resources, discounts, etc.? So one thing I don't share is which school we are with, just for privacy reasons, but I can share all about like what our school offers. And for that question, I really didn't know what our school exactly offered until I was part of it. Even on their website, you can look and see they tell you a general idea of field trip opportunities, vendors that they're signed with that you can use your funding for services, digital subscriptions that they offer for free for their students. They have their own library that you can borrow curriculum, materials, books, board games, technology, but I didn't know the specifics of everything offered until I was actually registered, enrolled my kids as students. But I would definitely go to the website of the school that you're interested in enrolling in and check out as much as they provide on their website, at least see what type of resources you might offer. So I can give you an example of what our charter school has offered. For field trips, they have a monthly list of different field trip options. There are museums, there are behind the scene tours of different restaurants, grocery stores, arenas, visits to farms, aquariums, live stage musical productions, the zoo, the list goes on. And every month it changes up, so they're covering so many different subjects with history and science and fine arts and performing arts, nature study. I feel like they do a really good job of keeping the variety in the field trips. And those are typically not free, but you can use your funding towards the ticket for that field trip, and sometimes you can use your funding for a chaperone ticket, and sometimes that will be out of pocket. Another thing our charter school offers is a library. So you can borrow books and videos and board games and manipulatives. They have a lot of popular curriculum that you can borrow, teacher guides and study guides. Anything that is not consumable, you can borrow it, check it out. The only thing for me is it's not close to me, so it's something they would mail out, and they would use your funding to pay for the shipping and for the return shipping back. So I only used the library from our school our very first year with the charter school, and I borrowed like an Osmo from my youngest daughter at the time. But returning it was a little too painful for me, so I haven't utilized the library at our school since then. Another perk that I appreciate are the digital subscriptions that were allowed per student. Some of the digital resources I take advantage of and use the free membership for are IXL. It's a really popular online program for just reviewing math. They have a lot of other subjects in there, but we mostly use it for math. My kids like to use the typing program they offer. They offer Grammarly. They also offer Adobe Creative Suite, and that is something my daughter will use for I think middle school and up. They offer a free subscription to that. And we have a Skillshare membership that we pay for ourselves, not affiliated with the school. But there are so many classes in the Skillshare membership that have to do with Adobe programs, so my daughter will use that, but use the free subscription from the school for Adobe program software and learn that way. Okay, the next question is, do I have to use their curriculum options from their list? Now, every school has different requirements, so I would definitely check their website and their rules and policies. But for us, we do not have to use what's on their list, but they do have a list of suggested curriculum, also curriculum that they're affiliated with where we can use our funding towards if that's what you want to do. For K through 8th, they are a little more hands-off on what exact curriculum you're using. They just want to make sure that you're staying on level with the skills required for that school year. When you get to high school is where it gets very tricky. It's a lot more strict on what to use. There is some freedom now that our school offers A to G guides. I will say this last year at this time was probably the hardest for me as far as deciding whether or not to stick with a charter school, because I wanted the support that the charter school offered for high school, but there are a lot of limitations in what you're allowed to do. The A to G guide gives you the most freedom to be able to use what curriculum you want as long as you're hitting those marks that are in the guide, and they give you the assignments and the assessments that are required. So whatever curriculum you decide to use, you have to make sure you can still have your child write a paper about one of these 5 topics, for example. The A to G guide is not easy. It's a pain, it's a lot of work. The easiest way is really to pick something off of their list. For this year, for example, our freshman year, we used the A to G guide for a lot. We used it for history, language arts, dance, and kind of for math, because if you didn't use one of their approved curriculum providers, then you had to do an extra assignment for math. So it was kind of an A to G guide, but it wasn't a full-blown version of the A to G guide. So like an extra assignment per semester. So you'll see for next year, we're changing things up a bit in order to reduce the amount of A to G guides, but keep the level of rigor and challenge that she likes. So to answer that question, do I have to use their curriculum options from their list? For us, for K to 8th, no, you don't have to use their curriculum options. For high school, you don't have to use their curriculum options, but it definitely makes it easier when you can find one of those that fits. It just makes things so much easier on you as a parent and for your kid too. You just have a lot less hoops to jump through. So if you can find the right balance of maybe you're like, no, I really want to use this history curriculum and I'm willing to do the A to G guide for it to show completion of the course, then you just kind of have to weigh your priorities. And once you have your homeschool teacher over you, you can ask them for a sample of what the A to G guide looks like for that subject, at least for the previous year. That really helps to get an idea of how much is required of your student, and is it going to be worth doing your own thing, or would you want to use something that they already approved of? Next question is, what is their involvement in your homeschool? So we meet with her once a month in person. She knows my kids pretty well, so she just wants to make sure we have a handle on what we're doing for the year, we're on track, I'm keeping up with the curriculum and where we need to be. It's very casual and not stressful at all. So a lot of these are along the same wavelength. So for work samples, we turn in work samples once a month. For K through 8th, they'll give us one subject to turn in. So for this month, it's social studies. So we'll turn in a history sample. This year, we're using Beautiful Feat's Early American History for my 4th and 6th graders. I assign a lot of notebooking for history, for science, language arts. More often than not, I'll use a notebooking page as our work samples. So we're reading George versus George. They write a couple paragraphs about George Washington that day, draw a picture above it, put the date, their name. I'll scan that notebooking page and then submit that as their month's work sample for history. For science, I would do the same thing. So it'd be one of their notebooking pages from their student journal, like a lab report. If you just use a blank notebooking page, write their lab report with their illustrations and take a picture of it. For language arts, I typically use a writing assignment from their IEW course and submit that as their writing sample. For high school, it's a little more work. They need to submit a work sample once a month for every course they're in, which is just more work to gather the samples, but it's not a challenge because she has so many assignments to choose from, so just pick one for the month and submit that. For dance, it's great because she already dances on a competitive team and puts in way more hours than she needs for her PE credit, for her dance credit. She logs her hours, she's doing the A to G guide. They have assignments within there like watch a video or write a paragraph or film yourself doing these ballet moves, and it has been a reasonable amount of work for the dance credit. Okay, I hope I answered that one enough for work samples, requirement. We do need to log attendance. Every month I'll go in. So when we turn in our work samples, we also need to turn in our attendance, which is easy because we basically homeschool every day. Oh, we also participate in state testing. We'll do 2 academic tests per year, and we also participate in the physical fitness test, which we will meet at the park and go through all the requirements. They'll run their mile and get timed. These oddly are fun for my kids. They enjoy the test. They feel like it's a fun challenge. They like to see their scores. So I know some kids might experience test anxiety. It's a negative thing, but for us so far, it has been just a normal, positive experience. They expect it every year. They're used to it, and they like to see if they've improved or where they need to grow. And so for us, it's been so far a good experience with standardized testing. And I appreciate that they get that experience and just learn how to take a standardized test for in case that ever they need that in the future. I don't know. And lastly, what do you like to order consumable and non-consumable for the school year? It's our first year. I personally like to just stick with consumable because I don't like to have to worry about returning it. And that is something I've learned. The first year I did order some non-consumables, even like books, because I thought, oh, I can get books for free and then I'll just return it at the end of the year. But I much prefer just to use our regular library and return the books or renew the books, and they're just local. I worry about keeping the books separate for the school library and one for our local library and paying for shipping to ship those back. I just prefer to keep it easy for me and only use the funds for consumable things. My preference is to use it for workbooks that I need review on, especially for math. That's something I typically use funding for, our math workbooks I can use in the summer. And for the rest of the funds, I really use it for services. I try to keep it towards services, field trips and classes, after school activities. So the dance studio that we're with accepts funding. We've used it for cooking classes, for martial arts, for computer classes, for CrossFit classes for kids. We've tried that. But now that my kids are, for the most part, dancing, we use our funding for monthly classes there. It's an easy way for us to use our funds. I purchase curriculum on my own for the most part, and that helps us out a lot. I also don't have to worry about returning things at the end of the school year or when we are done with our schooling. I'm nervous to owe books that I don't know where they are anymore. So I try to keep our funding to consumable things that we don't need to worry about returning. If you have any other questions about homeschooling with a charter school, I would love to help you from our own experience. Let me know in the comments below and I'll get back to you there. Thank you guys so much for being here. I loved sharing our homeschool journey with you. I'll see you in the next video.